Hello and welcome to my channel Redeeming Thunder. My name is Erica. If you are new here, you are very welcome. If you are returning to this channel, that means you are family. So bro, sis, I have a really cool message for you. So tune in, like and subscribe, and I'm going to jump right in. This prophetic word was given to me on 11/10/2024. This is in regards to the Ordained Spouse series. Yahuwah, the Most High, has given me the unction to give this series a new title. So the new series title is New Beginnings, Crowned Series, in relation to the Ordained Spouse series. Which is really good because that means something has shifted in the heavens and now on earth. Okay? That means if he wants to label this series crowned, that means you are crowned. And if he wants to label it New Beginnings, that means you have entered a new dimension of time. And you are on the right track and you're in your divine alignment. So this is wonderful news that he is establishing a new name for this series. Now, this is chapter 40, part 1, referencing fertility and unity, speaking to the Esthers in this hour, and birthing Mother of the Nations. This is a huge deal. This is immense, okay? And of course, I did not know all of that. I dove in to the secret place with a question to the Most High. Later, the revelations provided allowed me to learn how pivotal this prophetic word is. But it was only given to me because I was open to it. I was open to receive it. I got in the secret place. Okay, I was quiet. I was in silence, and I was waiting for his whisper. I was in worship. I was in obedience. And when I say obedience, I'm going to get to that because what I really wanted was some acknowledgement and some confirmation from him regarding something else entirely. I wanted to know if I could connect with the prodigal's children, because during that time was getting close to one of their other siblings' birthday. Okay? And so this is a message for those who have been waiting for that promise for the prodigals to return. And this could be a spouse, this could be a family member, a friend, a prodigal that needs to return to the father, children even. Okay? And so I went into the secret place asking for this answer. And he did not answer me with the question that I had. So, and I felt like it was urgent, and I felt like I really, really wanted to connect with him in some kind of level. And I really wanted my will, okay? But I need to tell you something is you got to put your will aside. You got to put your desires aside, your agenda aside. And yet, took this secret place time to entirely different route entirely. You can tell by the title. Okay? And he gave confirmation of that answer in a monumental manner. Okay? So if you're on this journey, a supernatural journey of not only becoming a better version of yourself, but coming into your calling, why why you were put on this earth. Many of you who are receiving the mantle of Queen Mother, okay, like Mother of the Nations, that is one of the mantles given, and it's starting up, if not already. You were in pregnancy season, and you are going to be pushing this baby. You're going to be birthing this Mother of the Nations mantle over your life, and it is extremely necessary to follow it all the way through, because it relates to your prodigal children to returning to you. Why? Because you are a mother to them. This entire journey, if this is your journey, you confirm it by speaking to the Most High in the secret place. While you were on the waiting side of things, it was a battlefield of faith, and it was a battlefield of long suffering, of love. And some of you have been waiting for true love. You've been in broken relationships or counterfeit relationships, and that has been a separate battlefield in itself. Okay? So that you could have been in a battlefield of faith, standing for your prodigals to return, and then a battlefield of also your prodigal husband, wife to return to you, and or a battlefield of your future ordained spouse union. Okay? But in order for the Most High to give you this promise, you first had to have faith. Okay? And in order for you, faith in the battlefield, in order for him to give you this promise, you first have to birth it into your life supernaturally. Okay, so in order for you to be fertile in this land, because some of you have been lacking that fertility, and when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about quite literally in your body. When your prodigals have not returned, that means that ground, that we're talking about plants, okay? Planting a seed. We're talking about actually the womb in the woman's body. It's talking about when someone cannot conceive. We're talking about the story of Sarah. Okay, she was a princess, and she was known as Mother of the Nations. All right? Why would she be known as Mother of the Nations if she was barren? Does that even make sense? Because Yahuwah the Most High did it miraculous. Because he gave her that promise, and her womb brought forth nations through that promise of her son Isaac, okay, with Abraham. Them two are a key couple, an ordained spouse couple. And that legacy needed to go on. So why would the Most High say you are given the mantle of Mother of the Nations? Because he's saying that you're no longer barren. Hallelujah. Yes, this is a big deal. All esteem to the Most High. He's saying that internally he is giving you a miraculous in your womb. Okay? That you're going to be able to conceive. And he's also saying the ones prodigals that you've already had, let's just say, they're going to return. Why? Because you are the mother of the nations. Okay? And if you had those children, you have been praying for those children. You have been praying for their salvation and redemption, right? And so that seed in itself is legacy. The DNA of the Most High. They need to return. It's prophetic. Okay? So, let's jump in. Because this has to do with queens and this has to do with Sarahs. All right? In this land. While praying in the Spirit, Yahuwah the Most High gives me a message and he says, I Ya Sama, which stands for to be in watch or of present and future. Favor of the Most High, eyes who fear him, who have reverence of him. There's a mission to be completed, okay? It's Yahuwah's mission on this earth. And this is a prophetic word for the Hebrew year 5786, which means all the prophetic words given in the past, present and past, are going to come into manifestation because Yahuwah, the prophetic number 5786, represents completion, new beginnings, and a hook. The number 6 means hook that hooks heaven on earth. Okay, he's linking them together. So everything that was proclaimed out of your mouth, okay, is going to come to pass. That's why you have to be very careful what you say coming out of your mouth. Because you can either speak death or you can speak life. All right. Sama means the prophetic word to share, but it also stands for to hear, to listen, to obey with action. The next phrase, while praying in the Spirit, is I Ya Soma, which means divine alignment. The eye of Yahuwah is talking about dimensions of time. He is paying very close attention to your journey of life. And if you're watching this series, if you're watching this channel, which I hope you are, he's trying to get you in the divine alignment so he can give you your treasures. Okay? So, Yah means the hand of Yahuwah, the hand of authority coming to set apart his covenant people. Soma, body, wholeness, wellness, the breath of Yahuwah. It literally means body and spirit and the physical body. The next thing he says is a Rema word, and he says, I know you are going through a lot, many changes. So during this time, your body and your health had been exhausted, okay? Maybe to the brink of what felt like maybe dwindling health, okay? There was a threat to your life. Quite literally, witchcraft, okay? And you survived that attack with the grace and mercy of the Most High. You survived it. And now what's going on is he's bringing you back to life. That's why he's saying he's blowing breath of life into your body with the word Soma. So what happens is many of you here were brought to this channel on purpose to watch and listen for what's to come. Because what's going on is some of you have actually given birth to children, okay? And what many people don't know is when you give birth to children, and you're following, you're following, and you are in the secret place, and you are in the divine alignment, okay? You are also giving birth to a mantle. When you physically give birth to a baby, you're giving birth to a mantle. So that's why I'm talking to the Esthers in this hour. You could have just had a baby, okay? Physically had a baby. And that baby was a birthing to your Esther mantle. Okay? It could be a birthing to your Deborah mantle. It comes one and the same. Why? Because the womb is like a portal. It's spiritual, but it's also a physical portal. You're bringing life into this world. Okay? And so, Yahuwah often uses those moments to birth actual mantles into your life. So if you have several children, you probably have several mantles. And of course, you could be a man and you don't give birth to babies, but you are still birthing mantles. Okay? But for women, oftentimes it is literally birthing, and you're physically birthing something at the same time. That's why it's very, very delicate. And you have to be in isolation to develop that mantle, for it to become into full maturity. Some of it is very delicate. Some of it is almost like a preemie or like a NICU baby. Okay, some of it is like that in a sense. That it has to have specialty care. While you're also having specialty care physically, you're spiritually, you also are getting revived. Okay? Now he says, I will blow breath of life, for you will need it for what's to come. Fortress, I will give you fortress of the nations. Fortress of the nations, fortress of the nations, fortress of the nations. He says, I said it 3 times. So then I researched what fortress of the nations means. Okay? And this means high-walled fortress to symbolize human pride and self-reliance, such as fortress represented a nation or city that believe its fortifications made it invulnerable to divine judgment. So he's saying he's giving. Have you ever heard the scripture say, I'm giving you the land of your enemies? Okay, so it's something along the lines of that. Okay? Isaiah prophesies that Yahuwah would ultimately bring down such fortresses, reducing their impressive walls to dust. So a lot of you could be going through a transition in your life where you don't want to go back to what, maybe a city, you don't want to move back to a state where it was so difficult, it was so hindering. But throughout this journey, Yahuwah has been dismantling the fortress of the enemy and the strongholds of the enemy. So when he's dismantled it for you and he brought it to dust, the walls to dust, he's giving you that land. He's giving you the fortress. He's giving you authority over that location. Everywhere you step and everywhere you had to move to and everywhere you lived, he's giving you that land. So that means there's invisible demonic forces, and they have to flee and leave, and they cannot step foot. And you're like, well, how many demons are there? The thing is, you have to walk into your promise with confidence and authority, and not be afraid to walk through those doors, through those hallways, through those back into that city, back into that neighborhood. You have to be able to walk with authority, knowing that he gave it to you already. They can't do anything to you anymore. All right, so then he says, I will give you my strength to speak. Your sound will change because it will be willed through my nation, my name, my voice. Ayin Yasoma. Ayin Yasoma. He said that 5 times, which means the eye of Yahuwah, the hand of Yahuwah, the breath of Yahuwah, the Most High, guiding you. Okay? He says, alas, and that means to jump with joy, to rejoice. Somok, which means crowned. Hallelujah. And he says, bow down to crown thee. I crown thee, mother of the nations. So in order to obtain the promise, you had to have received this mantle. If you noticed, many out there waiting for their promise of their prodigal's return was a situation, or waiting for their promise of being an actual mother on this earth, okay? With a situation where children were probably stolen from you, or the prodigals turned their backs on you, okay? Or negative influence defamed your character and did some brainwashing to influence the prodigals to turn their back on you, okay? Or witchcraft came into play, trying to destroy your legacy by trying to pretty much kill you while you are giving birth in the hospital, or trying to destroy your pregnancy. Okay? I had several dreams of bleeding prior to that life-threatening operation to deliver my own baby. Okay? Why would the enemy try to do that? Why? Because he's afraid of who you are and who your legacy is in the spirit and on earth. If they come to know who they really are, they're unstoppable. Okay? And many other people around you know who you are before you know yourself. That is why they had attempted to try to take you out. Because all they need to do is sway your mind away from the truth. All they need to do is keep you in anger and jealousy and envy and vengeful mode, in a negative mindset that clouds your mind. That's all they have to do. And they do it in a conniving manner, which is manipulative, because they behave like, they act like they can intervene and take on your shoes to parent them. And nobody can be who you are to them. They try to erase you from their lives altogether. And that had happened to me, where they try to take my children away several times. Why do you think the enemy's attacking you in that department? Did you know that you get attacked? You can know what your calling is in your life. You will know what your mantle is in your life if the very area that you're getting attacked in is the very area that you're supposed to do and you're supposed to be. He's not going to take something away and distract you and try to dismantle and try to break apart and try to divide something that is not for you. He's going to try to dismantle and sabotage, steal, kill, and destroy the enemy. And he uses people on earth to do it. Okay? Over and over again. He's going to try to do that because he knows that's the area of your expertise. That's the area that Yahuwah gave you. That's your treasure right there. Do you understand? So this prophetic word here is saying they couldn't take it. And if they took it, Yahuwah is doing a miraculous and giving it back. Because now the enemy has to give back what he has stolen. That's what's going on here. So I'm asking in a minimal sense, can I send her a text, my prodigal daughter? Can I send her a text and say hello and send her a pictures and try to connect her because it's her little brother's birthday, her and her prodigal brother. Can I send them a message? And Yahuwah, the Most High, is saying, think bigger. Elevate your question of what you want. In other words, he's saying, I'm not just going to answer you on that little question that you asked. I'm going to monumentally shock you and say, I'm giving you the mantle of the motherhood. I'm giving you the mantle of mother of the nations. Okay? So now, if you're mother of the nations, each individual child is a nation. You see what I'm saying? So he did answer it. But he says, you're not just a mother of the nations to your own children. You're the mother of the nations of this land in this appointed times, in this end times world. You're a mother to, you're you're representing Yahuwah the Most High of how he is nurturing, and he has structure, and he provides vital wisdom and knowledge, guidance, like a mother would do. And some of the things you may not like what I say, right? You may not like it. Some of the things, those may not like how you have wisdom and you blurt out the truth and you stand your ground and, you know, you are adamant about following the commandments. Not everybody's going to like what you say, but it doesn't matter, because when you're a mother, you're not trying to be your children's friend. You're trying to guide them, right? In the right way. And I think that's what was faulty. The prodigals wanted a friend to pat them on the back and let them do whatever they wanted. Okay? Even the prodigal spouses, I feel, wanted someone that was their spouse to be like a worldly friend and pat them on the back and be like, you're fine the way you are. But when there was a lot of corruption, there was a lot of lies, there was a lot of scandal, there was a lot of non-fruits of the Spirit. And when you make it known that you don't see fruits of the Spirit, okay, then they're like, okay, I don't like you. I'm going to go astray. I want to leave. Okay? And they rather go with the someone else or the other parent who does not give them that structure, who does not guide them like a real parent. They're just trying to be their friend. But a worldly friend is a difference when you have a friend, a heavenly example, you know, of a friend. But when you do not, they just lead you astray. That means not equally yoked. Okay, so now he says, Sabak for all who, or any who try and steal your glory. The glory of Yahuwah is in thee. Then he says, Masak. Masak means one large cloth over well protected. Okay, so it means it's basically a covering, a hidden, a veil, okay? A protective covering. And it expresses the story of two men that need to be hidden. And somebody covered them and put some corn or something right over them. And they were in a well, protected. It also was talking about a wave offering of gold. A wave offering of gold in the Bible reference a gold jewelry and ornaments that the Israelites brought to the tabernacle as a symbolic act of dedication and thankfulness to the Most High, where a priest would perform a ritual act of waving the offering before Yahuwah, while other wave offerings such as portions of sacrifices were designated for the priest. The gold offerings were specifically for the construction and adornment of the tabernacle and the temple, a tangible expression of Yahuwah's importance and the community's generous support for his service. The wave offering ritual. The ritual of waving an offering demonstrated that the portion of the gifts belonging to Yahuwah, with the remainder being released for the use of the priest in the overall worship system. So it's basically saying those who are his true priests in this nation, okay, are going to be receiving tangible recompense. They're going to be paid for their service working for the Most High. Their boss is the Most High. Okay? Exodus 35:22. Both men and women brought their gold ornaments such as earrings, rings, and brooches to form a wave offering. Okay, this literal ritual of waving gold ended up with the Old Testament sacrificial system. Its modern day meaning focuses on a believer's attitude of gratitude and generosity. So, upon receiving monetary value, okay, for your work, upon receiving, in other words, people tithing, and they're tithing into your ministry. They're sowing into your ministry. All right? They've understood that there's seed time and harvest. There's sowing, then there's appointed times to reap the harvest. They've understood that that's the law of the heavens, to sow and to sow faith. Okay? But not only that, tithing. Okay? Into any ministry. Even sowing a seed of gratitude when you give someone a tip after they've served you. If Yahuwah puts it in your heart to do so, please do so. It doesn't have to be a ministry. Okay? But I would suggest you give to a ministry who's been spiritually feeding you, because it's going to provide a sacrifice, and it's going to plant seed in your life to receive. Every time I've planted a bit, I've gotten quadruple. Okay? For example, the other day, I planted $40 that Yahuwah told me to give my friend, because she really needed money to pay a bill, okay? And so he said, plant it and I'll recompense you. The next day, okay, your recompense will come within days. The next day, I was surprised to just find money quadruple that amount in my account. It's always going to be triple, quadruple. It's going to be monumental, maybe even in the thousands. Even when you give $100 somewhere, it's like $1,000 shows up. I'm not even joking. It's happened several times, and it's always every single time I gave. So that's on a side note, but it's talking about you're being grateful and you're being generous. That is the key in this hour of the wave offering. He wants you to do that, to sow into the word. Sow into this word for your life. Okay? You may do so with this ministry, and I'll leave the info in the description, or a neighbor in need, okay? A friend in need. And this one is talking about gold. So it's literally talking about money. Okay? Because you're going to be thankful that you have enough to share. And the amount that you're going to give is going to be where it's pressing you a bit. If it does not feel pressing, like you sort of need it yourself, then it's not an offering. Okay? So make sure that it's with the heart, and you're being generous, and you're in thanksgiving. That you are in having faith that you're going to be receiving as well. Okay? Don't just give just to give. Give because you have faith that you're going to receive it back. And give because you're being generous because someone's in need. Or give because you're in obedience with the Most High, and He gave you that unction to give to that ministry. Watch your faith, watch your divine obedience elevate you. Okay? So now let's continue. And he says, alak. Alak means to walk way of life. It also means steadily walk, move, walk in my ways. Measures Jerusalem. So he gives verses that measure Jerusalem, the new temple, right? Grants you free access amongst the gates, the courts on the way towards the promised land. Stomp through the enemy and climb walls. Okay, this is what this obedience that you do is going to do for you in your life. Okay, so alak, I have some more verses for that one. It's Zechariah 1:10, and the man who was standing among the myrtle trees answered and said, these are those whom Yahuwah has sent to patrol the earth. He's talking about the mother of the nations. Zechariah 3:7, thus says Yahuwah of hosts, if you will walk in my ways, and if you will perform my service, then you will also govern my house, and also have charge of my courts, and I will grant you free access among these who are standing here. Do you understand here? He's saying, he's giving you the fortress of the nations. Hallelujah. Okay, so now he says samok, which means crowned. Ka, he says alas, in this manner. He says that 5 times, over and over. Tikva, 10 times, which means have hope. Have hope, have hope, have hope, have hope. Tikva, 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 okay? And then he says, you must push. Last push. Last push. Last push. Last push. Last push. What is he talking about? He's talking about giving birth. Okay? For I have prepared thee all your life to make this last push. I have summoned you for this moment in time. And he says, no, don't be nervous. You have the willpower to push through. Push through, my darling daughter. And this is when I had started a new channel for the Mother of the Nations, the Deborahs, the Esthers, the Proverbs 31 wife, okay, and the Ordained Spouse series of obtaining your promise. Okay? And that channel is called Daughters of Fire on YouTube. And so it's almost been a year of having that channel, that I only put those prophetic words there. Okay, so then I hear, my will surpass your will. I will be with you. So when I research what that means, a denial of Yahuwah's sovereignty. It rejects the idea that Yahuwah has a higher purpose or a clearer, more complete view of events. So some of us has been wanting a certain will to be done on earth, and we've been wanting it a certain way, and it's not been working out at our timing in our will, because it's not his will. So we have to change the way we pray. We have to say, on earth as it is in heaven. We have to say, if it be your will. We can't enforce something that is not his will. Okay, but right now, this is you birthing Mother of Nations. This is his will. Okay. It also means an act of rebellion. It puts one's own desires and ego before Yahuwah's plan, mirroring the pride and disobedience of Adam and Eve in the garden. Okay, so now it says, it considered a dangerous theological conviction that places one's own limited understanding above the supreme. Okay, so pray for wisdom and understanding so that you can understand your divine alignment if you are in it, and you can be in his will. Because when you're not in his will, doors don't really open. Okay? Sometimes there is conflict and there is quite the warfare when it actually is his will, though. Because the enemy's been trying to steal it from you. So one needs to get in the secret place and identify if you're having warfare because it really is his will, or you're having warfare because it really is not his will. And you keep praying for it and you keep waiting for it, and it's not his will. Okay? And then he says, when your souls, he says, I will be with you when your souls leave this place. So in the spiritual realm, the soul leaves the physical body to enter an unseen spiritual space, often described as a place of healing, recovery, or the presence of Yahuwah. So in other words, you want the prodigals to return now. You want them to connect with your the other siblings now. You want your prodigal spouse to be returned to you now. You're waiting for your wife to return. You're waiting for your husband to return. Okay? The promise that he told you. For those that have that. This is not for those that are with the counterfeits and they're not going to change and they're supposed to be with another. Okay? You're waiting and you want it now, but he's saying you have to, your spirit man needs to take some trips to the third heavens to receive some divine revelations and healing. Because only the Most High can heal you. Because some of you have received quite a bit of trauma, quite a bit of anxiety, being in not the will of the Father. Okay? Not understanding that you have to set several boundaries, and your circle got smaller and smaller, and you had to be in isolation, and you don't really understand all that life. Okay, so, but everything was purposeful. So, some of you, he says, I will be with you when your soul leaves this place. It's not talking about you're going to die. It's talking about you need to leave the earth for a little bit. I'm not talking about third eye either. Okay? We don't do third eye. I don't even know what that is. But I think it has something to do with traveling and moving, letting your mind drift. You know, when people do meditation, you're not supposed to clear your mind. When I say get in the secret place, do not clear your mind. You don't want demonic thoughts to enter and or demons to enter. So I don't say clear your mind. I say be still and say, I am here. And you're going to hear him speak to you. Okay? So the Most High said he wants me to tell you to, thank you very much, Raka Kodesh, for reminding me this. He wants me to remind you to ask him questions when you get in the secret place. Then be still, because he may answer you through the conversation, not the very first thing that you want to hear is what he's going to answer you. He's going to probably tell you a bit more. And he wants you to understand that. Ask bigger. Okay? Because this word right here is saying, this asking for it to be parent to the prodigals, but he's saying, no, you're not just parent of the prodigals, you're parent of all the prodigals. Okay? You're parent of those returning. You're parent of the children of the nations, of the Israelites. You're a mother to the nations, to them, all of them. So don't think small, think big. All right, so in other words, it's saying the soul leaves the physical body to enter an unseen spiritual space, often described as a place of healing, recovery, of presence of the Most High. He wants you to enter his presence, because his presence is divine, it's supernatural, healing. You need to recover still, in other words. He's restoring your womb supernaturally, spiritually, and probably even physically. So you're recovering, okay? And so you need, and don't say probably, say he is. You need a womb. You don't want to be barren. Today's the day. Today's the day. And so don't say probably. Scratch that off and say, he's restoring my womb to completion. Okay? Why? Because in the supernatural, you can't have a half-seas womb. Because when you birth these things, it's not half-seas. You birth it, and it was in wholeness. A entire womb to birth the baby, the supernatural calling, the supernatural divine union, okay, for the ordained spouse, the promise, the mantle. It's not a half-seas mantle, it's a full mantle. All right? What did Elisha ask Elijah? He wanted double portion. He was not asking small, and that was difficult. But guess what? He got it. He got the anointing because he asked big. Right? Okay, so now wait for Yahuwah's timing. It is coming. Can I say why? Because it's prophetic that it's coming in 5786. Why? Because this chapter is called New Beginnings Crowned. Fertility and unity. So, why? Because he did a miraculous for Sarah. He can do one for you. Then he says, Alish Ya Soma, which means ascend. That means think bigger. Okay? We're not going to bigger and or be in disbelief and mediocre faith like we did last season. Okay? We're not going to think half-seas mantles or half-seas womb. We're thinking entirety. We're thinking, we're receiving, we're declaring healed wombs, physically and spiritually. Why? Because when you're healed, he can give you the promise. All right, so he says, hand of Yahuwah, body, the physical body and the spirit man body, which is the spirit that looks like spirit, okay, is also recovered. is also going to recover. He's breathing life into both. All right. Remember the scriptures when he says, before you were in your womb, in your mother's womb, I knew you. He's talking about you existed before you were in the womb. How would you exist? How? Because you're a spirit man, the soul. He knew you from then. All right. Now, in the sub days, I hear, if you can, open the door for me. And I wake up. For like, I only be put into sleep in like 2 minutes or so, or less. Excuse me, not even 2 minutes. I'm talking about 1 or 2 seconds. Okay? And what I'm gathering is he wants you to ask him to rely on him to open the door for you. So it says, if you can't open the door for me. So he says, ask him that. If you can, if it be your will, Abba, Father, open the door for me. Because in this moment in time, there could be doors that you really need open. Like, for example, in order for you to launch into your future, you really need that daycare set up. Okay? Or in order for you to get into your future, you really need that job. Or you really need a different job. Or you really need that approval of your leave so that you can continue healing. Or you really need that approval so you can buy that house or you can rent that house. You really need the open door so that you could win that court case. Do you see what I mean? So these are just examples that I can think of quickly. But of course, apply it to yourself. Have faith to apply it and say, if you can, this is a key. This is a key, okay? Open the door for me. Many of you have not been able to even ask those questions, get in the habit of asking anyone because you had been hyper independent your entire life because you were dealing with abandonment and neglect, extreme, okay? And then each relationship you got into, you were very caring and noble, but kept getting into relationships that mimicked the relationship that you had with your parents, which was very much neglectful and abandonment and probably abusive. So then you had to depend on yourself. Okay? But some people, they get into the idea of self-manifesting for their lives. Okay? And then they get wrapped up in self-dependence, and it becomes self-idol, thinking that you got where you got and you have what you have with your own strength and might, with your own abilities, with your own education, with your own abilities, okay? And that's when it starts to tie into self-idol. So he's trying to reel you out of there and say, you can depend on somebody. That was not supposed to be your life. You were supposed to have someone to lean on. It was supposed to be nurturing and loving, but it was not. And now he's showing you a new way that you can depend on him. And you're like, how can I depend on him? He's in heaven. But he's the one who created the heavens. He's the one who created the earth. Okay? And he's linking heaven on earth now with 5786. So of course he can. Okay? So, new beginnings. We're entering a new chapter in your life. You're in divine alignment, so now it's new beginnings. That means not that horrendous hindrances that you've lived before. Okay? Now, then suddenly I'll be put in the sub days and I hear, shh, the relationship is over. And so basically what it's saying is, whatever relationship you had with your job, let's say, I'm giving you an example, okay? Whatever relationship you had with toxic individuals, whatever relationship you had with addictions, let's say, whatever relationship you had with counterfeits, whatever relationship you had, okay, with anything that was not in the divine alignment is now over because you're entering new beginnings. And I stayed quiet there for a little bit because I wanted you to really, really like receive it into your spirit. Okay, I want you to understand that you're not going to have the hindrances that you had before. Why? Because you're making a choice. You feel like, well, when am I going to be ready? I don't feel ready. I don't feel ready for this new beginnings. I don't know how I can make it work with the circumstances that still look like closed doors, because the doors are going to open. It was recently that the doors were kind of closing on you, and it was looking kind of bleak. Okay? But suddenly one door opened. So we've already been praying for ripple effect doors to be open for you. In fact, pray with me right now that I want to receive, and I will receive, a ripple effect of open doors coming towards my life in this very hour. In the name of Yahusha. Allah Shama Tika Shaka Yikapaka. Okay, so now, hand over hand is what I hear in the subdays, by being put in a subdays for 1 or 2 seconds. And when I research what that means, it can refer to physically moving one's hand one after the other, like climbing a rope, or a method of providing physical assistance where one person places their hands over another's to guide their movements. So you're not doing this by yourself. And it is a step-by-step factor here. It is used to teach new skills by guiding the individual's hands, and is applied in context from teaching children to self-fed to steering a car. Giving examples there. It describes moving one's hands alternately up or down, one in front of or above the other, to grasp something. So it's all hands on deck. Yahuwah will open the doors for you because you asked him. And then you are going to work towards that goal. And it's going to have to do something with training, it seems like. Okay? And then I'm putting in the subdays again, 1 to 2 seconds. And I hear, got the right foot fast. And in that moment when I heard that, my body physically felt like a twitch, like a spasm, or something, my body flinched. So it tremendously woke me up from that 1 to 2 second sleep. Okay? And I was like, what? What does that mean? Well, upon researching, I read, to get off on the right foot means to start something, such as a new job, a project, or relationship, in a successful and positive way. So, in other words, if it's talking about relationship, that means you don't have the old one anymore. Whatever was the toxic relationship, you're not going to keep believing in that counterfeit relationship anymore. Okay? Because you're making room for the new. Remember, the year is called New Beginnings. So you're making room for the new. And it's saying, the initial stages went well, setting a positive foundation for what follows. You might start a new job on the right foot, or by arriving early, or by being well prepared. Okay. To begin something with success and a positive start. So you could talk about a positive mindset, a positive attitude. Okay. So it means to begin something with success and a positive start. That means something good is looking up. Right? That's a clue right there. That things are going to be turning around. The open door is actually happening. And no more struggling. And no more warfare. Because it's a ripple effect of open. To open the doors for you. On earth. Okay? Now again in the subdays I hear, I never fawned about these men. Which means lofty, prideful individuals who are lovers of the world, who have idols and follow after the idols. Okay? You're talking about certain people who are losing their kingdom. There's a switcheroo of crowns. So who once had the crown is no longer going to have the crown. That's why he's crowning certain individuals in this hour, because other people are getting removed. That mantle's being removed from them, and he's giving that mantle to somebody else. Okay. All right, so then I hear in the subdays, everything looks fabulous. That sounds very promising. Okay? And when I ask what does that mean, and I hear, it means everything is ready for you to obtain your promise. You are at the right place at the right time. You are in your divine alignment. Okay? You are mentally in your new wineskin. Okay? You want this promise. And you have reached the appointed times. Okay, so Yahuwah is providing divine protection for those who are being crowned, and he is removing the covering. All right? So in other words, they don't have any grace. The grace is completely lost. And that would be a very scary place to be for those. So you're going to see your enemies experience quite a bit of distress. And all you can do at this hour is pray for them. Meanwhile, the ones that are becoming crowned are going to be living their best life. Thank you for joining me on the Supernatural Diaries. That is all I have for you for Chapter 40, Part 1, Fertility and Unity. Don't forget to like and subscribe and send to one or two who need to hear this pivotal word. And I will see you on the next Part 2. Shalom.